Ang maglalay data ko sa
The
Facebook.
Islamic Revolution in Iran. Words of Saddam Hussein, who thinks the revolution may spread to his country. The Ayatollah regards Saddam as nothing more than a brutal, greedy tyrant.
Pasko dyan, gusto mo?
In 1980, using planes and missiles bought by their oil riches, Iran and Iraq erupted to a devastating nuclear war.
Okay na, Coach Burns.
Yes, Vox, naka-live na tayo.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay na, Coach Burns.
Yes, Vox, naka-live na tayo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay na,
Right,
Coach
start, ha? Coaches, we can start now?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yes.
So, greetings from Doha to all over the world right now who are listening and watching us. Good evening from the Philippines. Greetings from Doha. Morning from Canada. And good afternoon here in the Middle East. I am Bernard Pingol from FITQ Qatar, and we welcome you to Tritalk, the Filipino International Triathletes Qatar webinar series. We are already on episode 3, and we've got a great triathlon-related discussions ahead of us, given to us by our excellent coaches. They will share us their expertise in a while, talking about varieties of topic that will help us on our triathlon. So this episode suits well for beginner to intermediate triathletes. If you consider yourself as advanced level triathlete, stay and listen. This will be a good refresher for you to remind you some things you might have forgotten. So my partner in hosting for today's episode will be the president of FITQ himself, an accomplished triathlete also, President Wox Sampelo. Wox, how are you doing today? Let's get this thing going.
Yes, Coach. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, to all our participants and our speaker and coaches. Yes, I'm good. Hope everyone is safe and strong. Yes.
You can introduce now our. You can introduce now our first speaker.
Yes, thank you for joining us today on the episode 3 of the FITQ Tritalk. So our first speaker for today is a seasoned triathlete and coach, currently based in New Brunswick, Canada. And his topic for today is it's all about sleeping. So the importance of rest and sleep in performance. He's a Triathlon Canada coaching license and competition coach and training. He's also an ITU level 2 triathlon coach. He's a Training Peaks level 1 triathlon coach. He's also Master of Science in Exercise and Sports Science. Candidate, University of New Brunswick, Canada. He's a 2 times Ironman finisher and 6 times 70.3 Ironman finisher. Okay, guys, let's all welcome our first speaker for today, Coach John Michael On, or simply Coach Mike. Yes, Coach.
Hi
Coach,
everyone.
naka-mute.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. So before we start, just hold on. Timing nag-lawnmower yung. Okay. So sorry about that. So before we start, have you logged into the poll view and enter the code?
Kasi hindi ko makita ang face ko.
Okay na?
You can see your face?
No.
Okay. So, Bernie, start ko na. I'll start sharing my slide.
Yes, coach.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Okay.
Start video.
Ito?
Yeah, you're good to go.
So done. All right. There you go. All right. So before we start, I would like to invite everyone just to relax, settle down, sit up tall, and we'll just try to relax ourselves, forget about what happened before the session, and just focus on what we're going to do for the day. So let's prepare our mind. I'd like to invite everyone to stop and ground yourself. So just take a few minutes, lower your gaze. You can close your eyes if you're comfortable, and start taking 5 long deep breaths and giving out a sigh. Like, then, so just relax, relax. I want you to notice your body. Weight on both feet as you're sitting down. Engage your core. Put your hand one on top of your chest, one of your bottom in your rib, in your tummy, and just start to breathe. Inhale through your nose and try to inflate your stomach as you do so. Inhale, exhale. Inhale slowly through your nose. Push your stomach against your hand, and the hands in your chest should not be moving. Inhale again, exhale, and give one big sigh. Okay, so as you do this, you would notice your mind will be wandering. It's okay. Just be easy and relax and accept it, and just focus back again to your breathing. Inhale, exhale. All right, so let's start. So good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everyone. So I'm already as President Walks already mentioned. I just moved to Canada to pursue my passion and started taking my master's in kinesiology. So I have some coaching credentials, but one of my most proudest coaching moment was when an athlete that I coached qualified for Kona, and everyone knows Coach Jay. So I'm proud of his accomplishment, and now he's now taken the path to become a coach as well. So yeah, and I've also started doing online e-racing coaching. So I'm the team coach of Team Badass. So we race usually in Zwift. So now we'll go before I head towards my main topic. There will be the main reason for me to focus on those things, because as everyone has experience, for me as a father, a husband, a coach who has limited time to train and have to balance family, working, coaching, and now studying, I cannot always train as much as I can. There's a limit. There's a limit to everything. So now I look into what we do on a daily basis. So I call this my 4 low-lying fruits. So everyone, we stand up, we walk, we lie down, we breathe, we sleep, and we eat. These are the 4 things we do every day. Now the question is, how do we do it? How do we perform each of this? Are we doing it efficiently, or we're just doing it because we're doing it? So this is because I look into how elite athletes are training. I cannot train as much as them. But then I look into what other elite athletes are doing. And this is recovery. They're able to recover properly, thus they can absorb more training. So this was the start of my my research about. So we'll start. So the learning objectives that I want to impart is to learn the factors that causes low quality of sleep, incorporate sleep hygiene in our daily routine to everyone. I'll be sharing documents later on as well, and create a culture that prioritizes sleeps. Okay, I will be discussing each three, and we will go back later on just to finalize. And if there's any question, we will be moving forward. So the webinar will be interactive, and I would like to invite everyone to log in to Paul V. So you'll be able to answer some questions. So first question would be, on an average, how much time do you train during a week? Bern? Pero can you check if it's okay na? If you can put your answers. Jay?
Yes, Coach Mike.
Can you start? Yeah.
We're good to go.
All right. Whoopsie. Sorry. There you go. So now, please type in your answers. Okay, there's one. There you go. Okay, 6 answers. Good job. Okay. So an average. So show the responses. So 43%. Oh, still changing. Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I'll just share. 38% has 2 sessions of one hour. All right. So, no, it changed again. So 43% now. I will share the slides later on. The answers. Okay. Next question would be. There you go. How much time do you sleep each night during the weekday? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So you will be able to encode your answers. You don't have to write it there. You can send it through paulev.com, but it's okay. So majority has 5 to 6 hours of sleep. Okay. So we will try to change this perspective later on. Okay. So we need to increase. Okay. So those who answered C, very good. Those who answered 6 to 7 hours, it's easier to move to 7 to 8. So our goal is to sleep here or more. There you go. So it's changing. Very good. Okay. So we will try to hopefully help you guys to move from A to B. And if you're in B, we'll move to C. All right. So now I will share something that it was a project. It is a school project actually. Okay. So it's the title is Bringing Your Z Game. So ways to get your rest the rest we need so you get more out of your tomorrow's training. So the question is, no, what I want you to think about is everyone can train hard. My question is, how hard do you plan to recover after each training? So remember, when you train, so wait, before that, so please answer this question. Some already put their answers in. So how much do we need? So 8, 7, 4, 7. So average, say, again, we're going back to 6, 7.5. All right. So how would you know your own, because sleep is very individual. So one way you can check how much you really need is during your recovery week. So for example, discuss with your coach. On your recovery week, turn off your alarm. Your main focus on that week is just to recover. As the week suggests, it's recovery week. So for example, your cycle is three hard training. And on the recovery week, focus on just sleep. If it's one training day, it's fine. But turn off the alarm, sleep normal, and wake up normally. Then get the average of that week. So for example, in the 7 days without alarm, you were able to sleep, let's say 7 hours. So that's your goal for the next cycle. You have to adjust your schedule so you'll get 7 hours. You have to wake up naturally. Remember, later on, I will show you how sleep can affect, all right? Affect your performance. So here. So this chart is from the Sleep Foundation. So these are the recommended sleeping, hold on. These are the recommended sleep. So for adults, majority of us are in this group, 7 to 9. And some elite athletes go more. Some athletes sleep more than 9 hours. As far as I know, there's the, I think he's Federer, or I'm not sure, he's one of the top tennis player. He sleeps 10 to 12 hours. And there's this marathon athlete. She's already on her late 40s, I think, or late 50s. And she sleeps more than 12 hours. But again, they're the elites, and we are age groupers who have other sources of stress. So again, so I just want to share. So this is a very common formula. So stress plus rest is equal growth. So this holds true with everything that we do. Could be for business, could be for training, it could be for school, it could be for everything. So again, some will ask, then I will just focus on sleep. No, that's not how growth happens. You have to have the right amount of stress, training, and the right amount of sleep. Then you will have growth. Now, what I want to discuss is we sleep every day. Now, how can we increase the quality of that sleep? You sleep, you don't have to add sleep. My point is, what can we do to increase the quality of what we have now? You don't need to increase training load as well, because sleep is there. But the question is, you might be telling me, I sleep 7 hours, but maybe 1 hour of that 7 hours, you're restless. You're not, your sleeping pattern is not really good. Okay? So remember that it's when we sleep, it's when our body absorbs all the training. It's not when we train when we get strong. Training makes us, how do you call this? Not weak, but in other terms, training destroys our body, or it create micro tears. And it's when we rest, when it repairs itself and gets stronger. So I would like to share this one. And so this is the paper that I did. And I'm very proud of my paper. I've shared this with my coaches, with fellow coaches before. So it's about changing of behavior, behavioral change, intervention. But this is mostly for students, but it can also be done for athletes. The key principle here is creating a culture. Wait, let me just remove. How can I? Anyways, so the key is creating a culture. As I mentioned earlier, creating a culture where everyone appreciates and understands the importance of sleep. So some of here are coaches, some are athletes too. So if from the top, from here, top-down learning approach, this will be from the coaching perspective. And from the bottom-down approach will be from the athletes. So now we're gonna meet. So you will have an importance. You would understand the importance of sleep. So again, social media, as we know, everyone is prefer posting their 5K PB, their 100K rides, but it's seldom you see athletes post or talk about, oh, I have a 8-hour sleep. Agree? And again, the communication plan, and at the middle of everything is to increase the sleep efficacy or our sleep knowledge. So through hygiene, we will be able to, through developing a sleep hygiene or a sleep routine, you'll be able to increase this, the sleep efficacy and your sleep efficiency. So next question, sorry. Next question is, there you go. So please try to encode. How often have you felt refreshed waking up in the morning? Good. Okay. So again, we need to understand that we as age groupers have other stress-related sources. So stress from work is another factor. Family, and from our previous discussion, love life. If you have love life there, yeah, it's a one stress factor, and which will reduce the quality of your sleep, especially if you're thinking, Coach Moy, agree, ah? Okay, so that's the main thing. Okay, so our goal is to have here. So this group of athletes here, really good. So you're feeling more having high quality sleep, waking up much fresher each day. Okay, sorry. All right, so let's proceed. So again, I just want to share this chart of training adaptation. So this is what happens when we train. So exercise, when we train hard, fatigue starts, and this is when your new fitness happens. It's not when we train, it's when you sleep. Regardless of how hard you train, but if you don't recover or plan your recovery properly, you won't be able to absorb your training well. Your training will become poison eventually. Okay. Any questions so far?
Coach Mike.
Yes.
I have one question.
Okay,
so,
please.
When it comes to training adaptation, the one that you are, this graph that you are putting right now, is there an exact or like an ideal hours of sleep in order for you to make a proper adaptation or like quick adaptation to training? Do I need
Yeah,
to sleep? Do I need to sleep 8 hours, 7 hours, or 5 hours? You know, and
the mhm.
we are all of us are very busy.
Agree.
So
Yeah.
how
So
can we maximize this adaptation and be reflected to the sleep?
okay. So again, we don't have the luxury of what elite athletes have. As age grouper, we don't have that luxury. We don't have that training. All you need to do in a day is train, eat, sleep, train. We don't have that as age groupers. We have other responsibilities. So I will discuss later on how we can increase the sleep. So one way to check right now how much sleep you need as an individual, because it's different. Mike will be different, Coach Jaynald will be different, Coach Moy, and everyone else will have their own personal needs. But as a standard, don't go below 7 hours. If you're below 7 hours, we need to work on it. I will be willing to help anyone who has sleeping outside the discussion because it will just take longer. But I'm here to help. So first, during your check 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 your sleeping requirements during your recovery week. Okay, it's that part of the training cycle where you can check it. Again, does it answer your question, Coach Bernard?
Yes, Coach Mike. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you so
so
much for the answer.
so you need to find a so for me what I do, I use a fitness tracker. So Garmin Vivo, I'm not part of them, but I use this to measure my sleep every day. Because in if you don't measure it, you cannot improve it. So you need to measure it. If it's a metric that you want to improve, you have to measure it. You can do it manually, you can do it automatically using gadgets. It's up to you, but you can measure it. So, but that's the first thing. You have to measure. After measure, you put some intervention on how to improve it. Then just keep on repeating. But the key is consistency. You cannot just do it one day and the next day you will forget. That's why later on we will discuss how to create a sleeping routine hygiene. So again, we need to understand what happens when you sleep. When we sleep soundly, memories are consolidated. Our immune system recovers and regenerate. We burn body fat, and muscle repair and growth happens. And a typical training cycle is, it depends on the athlete. It could be 4 weeks hard, 1 week recovery, 2 weeks, 2+1 or 3+1. It depends on the athlete and the coach. So they will have to talk and discuss. But during the 1 week recovery, that's when you measure how much sleep you need and try to apply that on the following training cycles. Any question? Okay, I'll move on to the next phase. So here, consequences of poor sleep. So there's a meta-analysis done by, so a meta-analysis is a type of research where multiple research has been, it's like a statistics. So they did the statistics about researches and this is what they found out. So by Pilcher and Huffcut, that overall sleep deprivation impairs human functioning. And triathlon or training is human functioning. So we won't be able to think well. We won't be able to perform as much if we don't sleep properly. And one thing that it will impair as well. I borrowed slides from Coach Bernard and Coach Sol. So there. So again, it will impair your RPE. So your rate of perceived rate of perceive of perception will be exertion. Sorry, rate of RPE will be you will become numb technically, so you won't be able to really fine tune. So this, I like this chart more. This one is really funny. So I just want to share that. So that's the key. So RPE will reduce. No, your RPE will be affected as well if you have poor sleep. Okay. Then, so what happens when you train or train hard or you don't recover properly after a training period or a training after training? So your fatigue will just keep on dropping. You didn't plan well your recovery, then training again, then you didn't recover well again. So now from your baseline fitness, you're now going down. So this is what leads to overtraining. So that's how important recovery is. Any questions on this slide? All right.
Coach Mike,
So, yes.
there's one question from our participants. It came
Yes,
from,
please.
From Jason, my partner here from FITQ. Usually I can sleep before race day. Any remedy? Does it affect performance?
Okay. On race day, think of it that the body will not notice immediately that you are sleep deprived. So it's key that leading to the race, you sleep more. So you bank in sleep. But it's not... Okay, first, like this. You have to accept that on race day, you will not sleep. You have to accept it. It's part of the mindfulness training. Whatever you do, unless you're really experienced racer, you'll be able to sleep. But if not, you don't have to worry, because it takes 2 to 3 days before sleep can really, can really have a detrimental effect to your performance. But if you keep on worrying that, oh, I cannot sleep, then that will cause more problem, because now you're conscious. Whatever you have worked hard for will not go out because your mind is so worried that you didn't sleep well. So ideally, during the week leading to your race, if you look at it, the week leading to your race is like a recovery week. So months before your race, you're already training yourself to focus on sleep on the third week. For example, you have 2 weeks workload, 1 week recovery. So on the work recovery, you're already forcing yourself to focus on sleep on the third week. So imagine, so again, we are creatures of routine. If you create that routine months before the race or your A race, your body will just switch on to recovery mode on the third week following two hard training week. So now, assuming 3 weeks before the race, so taper, for example. So you can taper now, taper, and race week. Then the body will now go on the third week, recovery week. So from Monday, your body is programmed to focus on sleep. So leading to the race, and 2 to 3 days, just continue sleeping. Don't worry. And on the race night, if you're not sleeping well, accept. It's fine. Because you already loaded with high quality sleep before the race. And 1 night of bad sleep will not have an effect. But you have to acknowledge it. Just relax. Breathe, relax. And this is where meditation will help. This will be another topic that we can discuss on. Did I answer the question? Yep.
Coach Mike, there's another question here coming actually from Coach Sol.
Yes, please.
So is this related to the gas principle. I think this is the this theory of the 3 stages theory of rest that he's talking about. And is it important to have 2 nights of good sleep before the race, as people to have tendency to be more relaxed on this day as compared to the day before the race? So
I mean, again, it's
related again for the race week sleep.
yeah. Again, it's really, for me, there's no exact science yet. I mean, sorry, let me rephrase it. Each individual is different. That's why it's important you prepare the body beforehand. You cannot just focus on sleep on race week itself. So it's all of this are best practices, but you have to practice it before the race week. You cannot just go into race week and force yourself to sleep. But on the gas principle, I have to check on that. I need to read on it. Coach Sol, if you can share the link for that, and maybe it's part of the research I have been doing. But I just want to keep it simple, that on race week, start planning your sleep on the beginning of the week. So for example, race is Sunday. Monday, you prepare like a typical recovery week. So what you're doing is just copying what you're doing on your previous recovery weeks. That's why you have to keep track and plan, fine tune. So each week, every recovery week, you're improving your recovery, because it's common. Whatever we do, there's other factors that could cause cause low quality sleep. So when you travel to race day, or something's wrong with your rear derailleur broken, your equipment doesn't arrives with you. So there's so many factors, but the key is just try to sleep as much as you can, and if you cannot sleep, and just accept it. But on one day of bad sleep is not detrimental, but if you keep on worrying, the worry itself will be the main issue of your of low performance.
Mike, there's 2 good questions again coming from our audience.
Okay, please.
So, sleeping pills, is it good to take it?
No, it's drugs. No, there's other healthier way to do this. There's so many natural ways to improve your sleep, and we will discuss it later on. But pills, no. Supplements, yes, but not melatonin. There's other supplements that can help.
Mike, another one.
Yes, please.
How about drinking 1 bottle of beer to induce sleep? Sometimes I do it as well. So this is a very good question.
Okay. Again, in moderation is fine, but more than one, but depends on how big the bottle. Okay? Because maybe this is the big your bottle is, then it's too much. Again, moderation is key. The main thing is we don't deprive ourselves that what will make us happy. Too much of alcohol is like you'll have this, what do you call this? Because alcohol will be metabolized as glycogen as you sleep. So you will have this like sugar rush in the beginning, at the middle of your sleep. So basically you don't want that. And the alcohol disrupts your circadian rhythm, which we will be discussing again later on. But if you want to really drink during your dinner and help your body digest it before you sleep, or you drink during lunchtime. Yep. Coach Byrne?
Yeah, Coach Mike, I think the most important thing that you've mentioned about on your discussion is you become stronger through
Sleep.
rest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is a very very important part of everyone's system, all the triathletes, not even the other sports as well. So for our audience, if you have any questions, just write it down on the chat box. Coach Mike, any parting thoughts before we can proceed?
Actually, I haven't touched the sleep hygiene yet.
Okay.
Yeah, not yet. I'm sorry. I will go quickly now. I'll go quickly. So I'll skip this. So one factor, the biggest factor that affects sleep right now is the blue light. The blue light. So it comes from your LCD screens, your mobile phone. So everyone who's watching now, your main assignment is to switch on your blue light filter in your phone. So what will happen is your phone will become, so if you look at my phone now, it's white, screen is white. Once I switch on my blue light, there you go, like Coach Moy, it will become orangey. Switch it to automatic, so your eyes, your circadian rhythm will not be affected by the blue light. So this is one negative effect of the blue light of the inventions that we have right now. So it affects the circadian rhythm. So there. So it reduces the melatonin. Melatonin is a natural hormone that induces sleep. But don't take melatonin because it's, personally for me, it's not a natural or healthier option. Okay, next. It keeps your brain and body alert. Okay. Then, if your phone keeps on beeping, waiting for someone to reply or someone to click like on your phone or devices, it will keep you awake more. So best way is for you to remove all technologies outside of your room. Take out the TV, take out the iPad, everything. Your room should be for sleeping only. The bed especially, again, we are all creatures of routine. If the body knows the bed is for sleeping only, it will only do sleeping there. But if you play or do your games in your bed, the body will now be confused. Am I going to play or am I going to sleep? And move your phone away from your bed so it's far from your hand. So now we'll go to sleep hygiene. So again, sleep hygiene is creating your own routine. Okay, so you can customize this. So I'm just sharing some. So first will be limit your food and drinks late at night. Second is sleep consistently at night. It could be 9 o'clock, it could be 10 o'clock. It depends on your schedule. Again, this is on a perfect world. Some of you have shifting work like Coach Wax. So you will just have to adjust everything to your sleeping, to your sleep, to the time you want to sleep. Then have a journal beside your bed. Use pen and pencil. Write down everything that worries you at night, or just write whatever's in your head. Then keep a bedtime routine. It could be brushing your teeth, taking a cold bath, so warm to cold bath. So it will help reduce your core temperature, preparing your body for sleep. Then reduce screen time. Turn on your blue light filter. Remember that bed is only for sleeping, and start doing meditation. So there's an app that I use and I recommend. It's 100% free. It's called Coach Moy. Happy Mind. Smiling Mind. Sorry, Smiling Mind app. Yeah. I started already doing this with Coach Moy, and I will ask for feedbacks later on. Then read a book. Read a paperback book, but it should be fiction. Don't read anything that will stimulate your mind. So just read something light, and not too much information. Okay. So again, tips for sleep. Nap. Take naps. Don't feel horrible about taking naps. So the best naps are less than 20 minutes or take the full cycle, which is 90 minutes. Anything between 20 to 90 or 30 minutes to 90 minutes, you will feel this like you're half awake, half asleep, because you broke the complete full. You didn't. You're in between the power nap phase and the full cycle of the sleep, which is 90 minutes. So 2 to 5 minutes decrease sleepiness and improve cognitive performance. Mini nap, 10 minutes, improves mental and physical performance and decrease fatigue. Okay, so this is what you want to do before training. Power nap, improve alertness, energy, and memory. So this is when you want to study, if you want to do some mental something that requires something with your mental capacity. But avoid sleeping between 30 to 90 minutes. Then other tips is save your caffeine in the morning or 8 hours before you sleep. Then 1 hour before your planned sleep. So for example, you plan to sleep at 9, 1 hour, you start preparing already for your sleep. Turn off your phone, take your bath, take a cold bath, go into your room and start relaxing. So that's 1 hour. Protect that so that by 9 o'clock, you'll be ready to sleep. Make sure you, here. Okay. So if you could, paint your walls blue, wear socks, room temperature, 60 to 75 degree Fahrenheit or 16 to 24 degree Celsius. Again, depends on you. You have to find what will work for you. But this is the desirable temperature. And the firmness of the bed, wake up to natural light, if not possible. So again, if you work at night and you sleep in the morning, what you could do is keep your room dark. So put blackout blinds. That's one thing. Then there, sleeping alone is one of the best way to take a good night's sleep. And I would like to invite everyone. This is a link where you can start doing your sleep challenge. So it's a 7-day challenge where you will it will help guide you through how to improve your sleep. So I will be sharing the link later on so everyone can get a copy. Then here, that's how it looks like. So day 1 till day 7. So that's I'm going to wrap up now. So learning objectives. So factors, I hope we have learned this. So blue light, extra stress, as Coach Moy is saying, his love life, and incorporate sleep hygiene into your daily routine. Again, you have to do this as a routine. And then hopefully we could create a culture that will prioritize sleep. So here there's coaches, there's athletes. So all we need to do is just to communicate and discuss what will be the best time to train and sleep and all of this important needs for us to improve. So is there any questions remaining? And this is our some services of Team on Try if anyone is interested. Questions?
Okay,
Yes, go
thank
ahead.
you. Actually, some questions will be answered later part of the
Yeah.
of this.
What you could do? Please send me the question so I can prepare it, and maybe we can just post it somewhere. So I'll be able to. If you can share the questions to me, I will answer each question, and I will attach links if I could. then we'll share it to everyone.
All right.
All
Okay.
right. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And Coach Wack, Coach Bernard.
Yes. Thank you, Coach. Coach Mike.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
So
So,
that was
please,
really an
Coach-
interesting topic. So
Coach
we
Wack, please send me the questions. All right.
yeah, we will.
Okay.
Okay. I think we really have not so much time. So for those questions, you can directly DM Coach Mike, or you can write here, and then later part you will answer it. We'll try to answer it if we'll still have time. So okay, so we'll proceed on our next topic. So let me introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is an accomplished triathlete and coach. We will discuss the importance of swim training and raising stress values. So he's a founder and the head coach of the Swim Academy, a co-founder and coach of Endurance Lab PH. He's also a race director of the H2 Oman Open Water. He's an ITCA Triathlon certified coach. He's also a certified coach of total immersion. He's a record holder from 2001 to 2004 of under 19 and under 23 Philippine Triathlon. He's a Philippine Triathlon national team member also from 2000 to 2004. And a running proficiency coach of the Philippine Obstacle National and Developmental Team. So guys, let me introduce to you to our next speaker, Coach Yamoyam from Philippines. Yes, go ahead, Coach.
Preswax, salamat. Thank you. Thank you guys for your time. Baka sino gusto mag-stretch muna? Stretch muna tayo. Even though yung ano ni Coach Mike is sleep, but that's a very interesting topic, especially for me, because normally I sleep 5 hours lang. Coach, I'll promise I'll sleep na 7 hours.
Ayusin natin yan. Ayusin natin.
So there are a few students that I have here. So I welcome you guys, and also my partner, I think Coach Joel is still here. So Coach, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So I'll share my screen so that the next speaker could have his time also. All right, let me just share my screen. Okay. All right, let me just go through here. Okay, just give me a few minutes. Sorry, a few seconds. All right. Okay, so it's great to meet everyone and be part of this webinar. The topic that I will be discussing is something that interests me the most, and hopefully I could shed light on those who are in darkness. So the topic that I'll be sharing will be about training stress score in swimming. So this can be presented by the Swim Academy and Endurance Lab, where I and Coach Joel are partners. And thank you in the partnership with Fit Qatar. Thank you for the opportunity. So let me just let me just open it again. I removed my share screen. Sorry, I'll need to share it again. Okay. Okay, sorry, I need to go back. I need to share the screen again. Okay. Okay. Just for those who don't know me, so I'm Coach Moy, as Presswax mentioned. So I'm doing 3 things at a time, actually 4 things. So I founded the Swim Academy in the Philippines, and I also partner with Coach Joel as we open the performance testing and coaching, which is the Endurance Lab. I also help building the swim community in the Philippines. So I open up the H-Soman open water events, where we organize swim events, open water events. I had also an opportunity when I was young to be part of the national team, and did a few good records at the time. I set the under 19 and under 23, and I was not fortunate to able to get the ITU certification, so I took the ITCA certification 2011, and did a certification also in the total immersion. Currently, I'm helping the POSF, the how do you call it, the Philippine Obstacle National Team and Developmental Team as the running proficiency coach. Okay, so I've been training for a long time. I've been racing and training for a long time. I'll be showing a few pictures here where for 17 years, let me just move here, even though this can be 17 years apart, my competitiveness spirit is still there. So this is me when I finished in 2002. I set the under 22 record at the time. And that year also I finished supposed to be the first Ironman distance, but it was called the Philippine long distance at the time because they need to be registered to an Ironman to get the brand. So that was the time. And this is me out last year, 2019. So for the past 10 years, there was a big change. And it leads me to what I am today. And I think that's similar to what Coach Mike also was discussing. What would be the changes for the past 10 years? Because if you can see, I stopped in 2004 as a national team. I moved to a corporate and until 2010. But in 2011, I discovered that I think this is not my calling. Then I moved to something else. And what a change, actually the mindset, which is what we're planning to share with you today. So in 2002, if you want to be a triathlete, what do you need to do? So this is our mindset at the time. So we just want to swim like a swimmer, bike like a cyclist, run like a runner. And after, not really just last year, but for the past 10 years, that has changed. So now I swim based on my target pace, my heart rate, tempo. I bike based on the power, which is also based on my RPE, and run based on power, HR, and pace, and race pace. So what's the reason why I show you those pictures? Because probably this is the question that I ask myself, and probably the question that you ask yourself too. How do we compute our performance? So let's just focus on the swim. Now maybe I can ask the participation of our audience. How do you really compute for your swim performance? What are the parameters? Maybe one or two that I can see from you guys. What would be the parameters maybe? If none, it's okay because I have here a few prepared or what I usually use to measure the performance of my students and probably myself as well. So this might be common to everyone. So now this might be the current swim parameters that we might use. So very common is time. So like for example, if your time last year in a 1500 swim on your standard distance race is 20:30, the year after that you did a 29:59. Oh, that's a good FB post. PR for today. PR for this race. A 1 second PR. So that can be it for time. Maybe some will be familiar with this equipment. I've been using this equipment for almost 10 years already. It's a tempo trainer, one of the best equipment that Finis has created, and none of the other brand had follow. So it has 3 mode. I just using the first mode. It creates a time where it can give you a tempo. So probably that can be something that you use for your performance. I mean, to gauge your performance. So probably in this month, you do about 1.2. So 1 second and 20th of a second per stroke. Then maybe 2 months after, you can now be able to do a tempo, but 1 second per stroke. Then you can get your time. So that's going to be one of the parameters. Second would be speed per distance. So it means when you say speed per distance, is like, for example, your time for 50 meter is 1 minute. Right after 6 months when you train, now it goes to 50 seconds. Now you can actually gauge your parameter, your you know that you actually improve. I think that's the simple thing that I could describe. The last, which is hard to really incorporate, but the technology is there, is heart rate. There is a technology existing that we can use, that we can actually use heart rate as the parameter for swimming. But all of this are actually present. So if you can see, the swim is one of the discipline that hard to catch up with the rest of the two. Because if you can see, all the two are already in Swift, but swim is not in Swift. Even though, let's say, we're not in pandemic, there's no Swift swim. Hopefully soon they might have that. So swim discipline, the technology is catching up, but still delayed with the rest of the two. So our question now is, could there be something that integrate all of this together? Or there's something missing? Is there something missing in these parameters? Could there be something else? That could be our question. And that might be also my question, because I've been doing this for 10 years. And I'm thinking, could there be anything that actually could integrate them together? And this could also correlate to what Coach Mike is actually telling. So what about stress? So we might also ask ourselves, what about stress? What if we can assign a value for stress? So that can be a good question. If we can compute the value of stress, that can be awesome, right? If we can, so like for example, it's 1 + 1 = 2. You have the one, but you don't have the other. You cannot number two. So because now our parameters are one-sided. So when we say one-sided is, as I mentioned, the 4 parameters that I told you, this is just the load that you are putting into your body. But the other one, there's no other parameters that actually computes of how much did you put into your body. So like the time, your effort is there, it's computed already. So that is missing on the whole equation. So that's the reason why I think why we are here tonight, this afternoon and this morning for Coach Mike, to shed light in our topic, which is what we call the training stress score. So the next question that we have now could be, what is training stress score and how this is related to my training? So this is really a nice topic because, as I mentioned, there's an equation which I mentioned earlier, 1 + 1 = 2. We have one, the load. We miss the other one, which is stress. We get number 2. Okay, so before probably we go through deeper the TSS, we'll just give the meaning of this. So if you attend Coach Scholl's talk, I think he able to touch this. But training stress score is a composite number that takes into account the duration. So take note, it's more on the, let me just highlight this. So it's more on the duration and the intensity of the work, which arrive a single estimate training load and psychological stress created by a training session. So the computation would be per day, per week, per month, or probably the whole year. So that's the good thing with Training Peaks because it can actually compute. So if we can be able to equate a number on the effort, that's going to be amazing. Because back then in 2002, when I was part of the national team and competing, I never knew about this. If so, I might have able to perform really well. Because at the time, if I give you just a few background of that, every one of us are trying to hit the sub 2 hours. The best time that I did in standard distance about 2:06, so I'm about 6 minutes away from every one of us. But for now, you can see that our national team performed really well. Our national record now is 1 hour and 53, which is held by Chicano. So that's the reason why that this this topic is really good, because now we can actually equate now a score for how much we put into our training. Yeah. So I mentioned that we can equate now numbers to stress, to the amount of stress that we are putting in. The next question probably that you have now, it's really important. So rather than to give in defense of that, I could probably give you an advantage if you're able to equate a number now on your stress and your load. This can be the advantages probably. So these are a few advantages which can provide, which if you can provide values for stress. First is we can actually be at our best during races, which is, I think that's number one. Second is we can now quantify how much load we need in order for us to hit the target. So that would be an advantage for us on a per day basis. So don't need to go beyond. Like for example, I don't need to swim 3,000 if I can actually hit my target in a 1,500 training. So my rule of thumb always is if you race at 1,500 meter distance and I train 1,500 meter distance and I can beat you in 1,500 meter distance training only, then I'll only train 1,500 meter distance because we don't train for that much. So that's my rule of thumb always. Less training, same results. So the third one would be we can now determine which is more or less on racing and training, because we are able now to get the 1 and plus 1, and we got number 2. So we got the load, we got the stress, then we got now the results. So this is the good thing, that we are able now to equate a value for stress, for the amount of load that we're putting in. The last one, I think, which is also important, with the help of Training Peaks, we can actually predict or assume, based on approximation, how fit we are in the particular time. And with this is referring to race day. So I'll show you later on how should you be able to predict your fitness or how well you feel at the time, at a particular time. Okay. So I'll show you a sample workouts where the durations are different, per specific, with the same intensity, and all of them has the same stress, has the same swim training stress scores. So hopefully you can see it, but I had a chart for it. But if you can see the blue lines, these are workouts that are being made in Training Peaks, but this are much more clear probably. So if you can see, these are the sample workouts. So the first one is a 1,500 swim straight with all out. The other one is a 15 by 100 where you swim and you put a rest in between. The other one is 150 by 10 where you still do all out or your FTPA, and you still rest in between 150 and 30 by 50. So if you can see, the cover distance is the same, the intensity factor is most likely the same, and TSS, or the training stress score, is actually the same. So our goal is not really to make all the TSS or the training stress score the same. The goal of this is to make sure that we are at the right TSS. So what do I mean? So if 44 is more than what you need, you might want to change the duration, or you might want to change the intensity, or you might lower it down. So what do I mean with that? So like, for example, I'll show you a chart and information on this chart. This is my chart when I start training again in March 28th. And this chart would just be until March 16. But now it still goes on because I still could continue. So if you're familiar with this chart will have 3 lines. So let me just go through here. So the first line will be the pink line. That would be your acute training load. We will not go to these items. I'll just mention those in case you're familiar with. But I give you what symbolized that that term, like the ATL. ATL is a running average of the load that you're putting in. That's how Training Peaks computed. The second would be the yellow one. That is the your TSB. Your TSB is how well you are at a particular time. So that's good. That's a good indication because that's where actually we are leading to. The blue line would be your CTL. CTL is the chronic load. The CTL is pertains to your fitness level. So which means CTL minus your ATL would be your TSB. So we'll not go to that, but that would be the how they will compute. So I'll show you another slide. And this would be already at May 16. I'll go back first to the slide before this so that you can notice the value that I put in. So if you see on the left lower corner, there's a date, March 28. If you notice, ATL is 0 because I haven't done any workout prior to that. My CTL is 2. That's how the computation did by Training Peaks based on my fitness level. And my TSB is 2. That's actually positive 2. So now, in this chart, this is May 16. Based on a 7-day average, my ATL, which is the load that I put in, is 66 because now they're able to put a value on the load that the stress that you're putting in. My fitness level is from 2 to 51. That actually we want to see on this chart. You want to see that growth of fitness level and my TSB, which means how I feel on that particular day as negative 12. So I'm on a negative already. So there's a significance of that. So what now it gives us a better picture on how much or how we will approach training now, or the harmony talaga with stress. So your load and your stress, there will be harmony now. You can actually now predict and make your adjustment. So not all the time it will just rely on your feeling, which is also important. Your RPE is also important, but now it gives you a certain value, which is pretty good, right? Kung may value tayo, that's pretty good. And that's why this talk is really nice, like the coaches that we have here, because they can help us, which probably definitely can guide us for those
Coach
who
Moy.
are. Yes, Coach.
Coach Moy, this is Coach Bernard.
Yes, Coach Bird. Yes.
I would like to ask you one question about this ATA, acute training load, chronic
Yes,
training
Coach.
load, and TSB from TSS.
Yes, Coach.
So, do we have a certain value that we can see if we have training peaks, wherein we can use it as a reference for us to say that we are ready for our race, like a certain number for all of these values that we can say that, okay, this is good for us to race, this is good for us not to race. What do you think?
That's a good question, Coach. So the algorithm for this, don't worry about that because Training Peaks is doing that for you. That's actually where we are leading to, Coach. Because in particular, there is a suggestion value where Training Peaks will tell you, okay, on this value, most likely you're able to recover or you're actually at your best at this time. So there is a value, Coach, which I will touch later, probably at my last slide on this. But in terms of getting this value in particular, I think the best thing that we could imagine is the ATL, the Training Peaks will get each 7 days of your training, which it will compute its training stress score and will give you a certain value. The CTL is normally about, if I'm not mistaken, is about 6 months of what is inputted on the Training Peaks. Then it's get a value if I'm correct, or 30 or 6 or 90 days. But there's a particular time that all what is there, it will generate a certain value. So good question for that because that is where we are leading to. So I will go to my next slide so that I could be able to give you a specific application of why TSS is also correlated to your training. So this is a sample of suggested weekly hours and suggested training stress score. So you can actually also take a screenshot of this, or if you're familiar with this, you can also search it online. So we'll just focus on the sprint distance. So if there is a weekly hours, don't worry about that. We'll look into the weekly TSS. So he suggested, this is already for swim, bike, and run. 290 is the lowest, 740 is the highest. Let's take the 740. So this would be an application. Like for example, if you're doing a sprint and you get the full TSS every week, and this would be your breakdown on the weekly hours, and you spend 2 hours on your swim for that particular week. Let's say that's about 17.39% of the 11.5, which is 11 hours and 30 minutes in the whole week. That's for example, which means on that particular week, they suggested that you need about 128 training test score. So how can I get 128 training test score? So let's go back to this example, which I think I show you this kind of workouts. So which means if you need about 128, you need about 3 of these particular workouts, about 44. That would lead you about 132 training test scores. Now you know that, okay, I'm good already with the stress I'm putting in and my load. You have 3 sessions in the week. You covered about 4,500 meters, most likely, on your main program, excluding the warm up and easy. Now you get the main core about 14,500, and you get the TSS score of about 132. Now going back to this, now you're able to fill in what is required about 128. And you know in totality that you're already in 740 if you also follow the rest of the TSS based on the other discipline. So now I will actually answer the question of Coach Burns. Is there a suggested number that you're actually at your best on race day? And that's the most important, why we are here and what's the importance of TSS. Yes, there will be a suggested number. So as Training Peaks suggests, you should be at your -5 and +10 during race day for you to know, for you to be at your best, or you can actually perform at your best during race day. So I'll just go back a few. I'm almost about 24 minutes of my presentation. This is just a few minutes will take me. We'll go back here. So if you notice in this chart, I'm at the -12. So which means if in case the week after that is my race day, I will just slow down on my load, not really relax, because there is a wrong conception that recovery is you need to relax. No, the recovery is you just take out, but probably 30 to 50% of your load, depending on the required TSS or depending on the results of your TSB on that particular week, so that you can actually perform at your best during race day. Okay, so I think at this time, I could now open the windows and doors of heavens for questions. So I have only 24 minutes. I mean, I did 24 minutes, Coach. So, Coach, I'm open for questioners already. So, unless if there might be other questions, if there are questions now regarding that, I hope I was able to shed light on that. Sorry, that was a very challenging but interesting topic to me regarding TSS. But I tried to make it very simple, and hope I was able to shed a few light on that for those who might be
Coach.
interested about. Yes, Coach.
One question about sTSS, the swim training stress score.
Yes, Coach.
You've mentioned all of those parameters. As a personal experience that you had, do you prioritize one thing from another? Like,
Yes,
do you
Coach,
train
sorry.
time or overpay over all of the some parameters that you mentioned?
Okay, so let's take out first TSS and let's focus on targets first, because all of this actually can be integrated together. So like for example, is the target is just to hit a particular time. Like for example, for me, one of my targets on the swim is I want to swim 1 minute 30 on a 100. But at a certain time, I'm swimming about 140. So what I need to do is to take some of those factors that I can adjust. One of those factors which I can adjust is the tempo. I can lower down the tempo so that my time would be faster. Or I can actually put in equipment so that I could be stronger and staying with the tempo itself. So now it's actually you and your coach who work together, which one is more effective. So if lowering down the tempo would hit the time, the 100, now I think that can be the way. But lower on the tempo, if you feel that too much for you, maybe you can start putting in strength and conditioning equipments so it would help you make you stronger in your pool or in your kick to hit the time. So I think that can be based on what would be the goal, and how can you integrate together. So possible that you can just focus into one, like example, I just change the tempo and hit the target. Or you can actually integrate either one or two or three of the aspect together. I hope, Coach, I answered the question.
Yes, Coach. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, Coach Moy, thank you.
Thanks, Coach Press. Salamat.
Very
Salamat.
interesting topic. Yes. For all other questions, yeah, we can entertain it on the later part again. So, and also you can directly DM Coach Moy if you have any even personal questions to Coach. Coach Moy is still single. Yes.
Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yes. So, okay, we will move on to our next topic. So, and our next speaker. Our next speaker also is also an accomplished athlete and coach. Okay. His topic is about measuring the training and racing intensity through HR or through heart rate. And Coach is a registered emergency nurse specialist. He's also a flight nurse, paramedic, a certified educator and instructor. He's also a certified Ironman coach and FITQ Triathlon coach. He's also a former president of Qatar from 2017 to 2019. He's also a triathlon race organizer and race director, 4 times Ironman finisher, and 9 times 70.3 Ironman finisher with podium finisher of Ironman Davao, third place in his age group, and also first in his age group in Ironman 70.3 Subic. He's a 70.3 Ironman World Championship qualifier and a finisher in Nice, France in 2019. He's also a Kona qualifier and finisher in 2018, an Ironman World Championship. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our next speaker, my coach and also the head coach of FITNOKEOLA team, Coach Jaynald Canaria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A pleasant good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for that impressive acknowledgement and introduction. Those achievements will not be possible without, of course, the help of my family, the supportive coaches that I used to have before. Coach Mike is there and other coaches, and of course my pitmates and my athletes. Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity for giving me I want to thank FITQ for giving me the opportunity to speak and present my topic for today. Let me just work on my presentation. Okay. I'm hoping everybody can see. Okay, greetings from Qatar. Thank you. I want to say good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all the listeners. Right? Special mention, since you mentioned about Kona or Hawaii, I want to acknowledge a good friend of mine based in Kona, Hawaii, one of the viewers, Francis. A pleasant good morning, I believe, in Kona. So thanks for listening. Aloha and mahalo as well. So measuring training and racing intensity to heart rate. So there are so many or variety of ways on how to measure training and racing intensity. If you will remember in the first episode, we discussed about RPE, discussed by Coach Bernard. Likewise, the power meter, discussed by Coach Saul. But this time, we will be discussing about heart rate. Okay, so what are the things to be discussed in this topic or in this presentation? We will define what is heart rate. We will identify factors that affect heart rate in triathlon training and racing, in particular the bike and run. Okay, we will enumerate on how to measure heart rate. define what is threshold heart rate and its importance on measuring training and racing intensity. This is a paradigm shift in terms of measuring heart rate intensity. I'll discuss more and describe the different zones in triathlon training. Okay, heart rate. Heart rate, let's define what heart rate is. Heart rate is simply the number of times your heart beats per minute. This is the most common measure of cardiovascular fitness. One study published in Sports Journal in 2019, heart rate monitoring is the most common measure of cardiovascular fitness. It's easily accessible. It's a non-invasive, right? You don't have to go to the laboratory to take your blood. All you need to have is heart rate monitors like chest strap or the watch. But let's go with the fundamentals. I'm a medical guy. How do I measure my heart rate? How do I know whether my heart is beating slow or high? All I need to do is measure my pulse rate. I'm sure everybody's familiar on how to measure pulse rate. Just put your pulse, your hands or your fingers on the wrist, same side where your thumb is, right? This is basic. And then from there, count the beats per minute over 60 seconds. That's your heart rate, average heart rate. So training in your heart rate is used to ensure that you are not going too hard on your training days and not going hard or hard enough to your training days. Say again, it's a measure on how to ensure that you're not going too hard, especially on race day. So usually I'm telling my athletes, I am not impressed that you did a hard effort during your recovery days, okay? Because when you say recovery days, you need to recover, you need to recuperate from the micro tear, from all the stress that you underwent during the hard training days. So as a triathlete, there's so many things that affects your heart rate, and heart rate can be reflected and be affected on how hard you breathe, your environmental factors. We will discuss later as we go on. And in triathlon, it's not only training your muscular endurance, but it also in parallel in training your cardiovascular endurance, mainly the heart and the lungs. Okay, let's move on. Factors that affect heart rate. Right. Number one, when you are sick. Right, I want to correlate this one since we're having pandemic or the COVID-19. When you are sick, it's a sign. It's either because of a microorganism related, right? Wherein the virus is infected, or you are infected with virus. What happens here, the body will try to compensate, right? Adrenaline will be increased. The body will try to normalize your system. So that's why I'm not recommending to do hard training during the days that you're not feeling well. Have you experienced those days? Remember one day that you will wake up, you have cough, you have cold. So meaning your immune system is sick, is low. Also remember after the race day, you are prone to sickness because your immune system is low. But despite of that, if you will see and you will feel that your heart rate is so high or high during that time. Mental stress, I believe both previous coaches mentioned about mental stress. Stress releases hormones. During stress, the body will be in the fight or flight syndrome. So wherein body will release adrenaline that increases your heart rate. So it can affect also your training and performance in training and racing. Okay, I believe this is one controversial topic or factor that may affect or affects our heart rate. I know no one from our group is an elite athlete. We are all here primarily to become fit. triathlon is not our career. I understand that one, right? And I'm sure one of you, one of our listeners, or some athletes are already taking their prescription medication. And who are those? Like, what are those medications? The most common one is the antihypertensive medication or the BP meds. If I could ask anyone, raise your hand and tell me who are those athletes taking blood pressure medications, right? What happens if you're taking BP meds, right? The main purpose of blood pressure medication is to control your heart, your blood pressure. And the side effect of hypertensive medications, one of the side effects is bradycardia, meaning it slows your heart rate. Will this affect your training performance or intensity? Yes, because your body, right, your heart cannot really correlates on the amount of intensity despite of the hard training that your coach will be given to you. Technically speaking, physiologically speaking, no matter how hard it is, if you are taking hypertensive medications, the side effect of this one, it lowers down your blood pressure, at the same time lowers down your heart rate. So it will greatly affect. If I'm the coach and I will look at your heart rate, you're not giving too much. You're not giving your 100% effort, coach. I will tell that one to my athlete. But my athlete will tell me, coach, my RPE, this is my best already, right? At the end, I'm already on the RPE of 9 and 10, but his or her heart rate does not reflect the amount of intensity that I'm expecting from him or her. Why? Because he is taking blood pressure medications. So something for you to know, okay? Increased temperature. So this one, as I discussed already when you're sick, but as a default, if you're living in the Middle East right now, if you train and you go outside, automatic by default, it's your heart rate is high already, right? So how do we make the adjustment or changes in our preparation, in our training or racing? Racing is different. We need to train and prepare for it. But in training, for example, you're doing your indoor bike training. Keep your environment cool in order for you to finish, right? Or to follow the intensity as described in the session. By default, if your environment is hot, even without starting your session, your heart rate is increased or high already. So you will see, for me, if I'm always doing indoor training, I always have electric fan with me. Whether I'm doing biking or I'm doing my indoor turbo training or I'm running on my treadmill, I always put electric fan to keep me cool or switch on my air condition to keep me cool so that I can be able to perform and finish the training intensity that's been prescribed for me on one specific day. Okay. Lack of sleep. I think Coach Mike mentioned about the lack of sleep, the effects. Lack of sleep, it will increase, right? Melatonin chemicals will be released. It will increase your heart rate by default. Low blood glucose level, same as well. If you have a low blood sugar level, automatic, the body will compensate and it will increase your heart rate. So when you're training, make see to it that you hydrate and prepared well. You eat well, you hydrate well in order for you to finish or finish or perform the intensity, the amount of intensity given on your training day. Okay. Caffeine, for some people, though, it's a controversial in terms of the effects on heart rate. For some, they may cause palpitation. Caffeine can cause palpitation, but in contrary, some study shows also it decreases your recovery heart rate, right? So It depends upon who's taking whether the athlete has allergy or having palpitation every time he's taking caffeine. And the last one is dehydration and hot and humid environment, especially on race day. Okay, I just want to share some study published way back in 2015, where in variables that influence Ironman triathlon performance. This is a 35 years of research study, right? Because they have started doing the data collection from the first time that Ironman Kona, Hawaii was established up to the last 35 years, and they found out that those dehydration and hot and humid environment are two variables that affect performance and also affect the heart rate of the athletes. You know, interestingly, I have done 3 research studies as an educator during my master's degree, and also as a clinician, I have done 2 research clinical study. If I will be doing my first ever research study as a triathlete or as a triathlon coach, I want to use this one: factors that affect heart rate in terms of performance and racing.
Coach
Moving
Jay.
along. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach Jay, this is Coach Bernard. I would just like to ask you something. With regards to the factors that affects the heart rate, as a clinician and as a coach, do you have any recommendation on what are the ideal percentage of a heart rate of an individual before starting? Because like what you've said, some person have a high resting heart rate.
Yes.
So what if an athlete will be starting his training at 30 years old and 150 already? Is it still safe? Or if it's a 20-year-old with a 160, 150 resting heart rate, is it? What are the percentages that you can recommend? Because resting heart
Yeah, it's a very good question.
variable.
It's a very good question, Coach Bernard. Primarily in the beginning, before accepting their request for me to become their coach, I want to do a medical background as coaches, right? I want to know their medical condition, heart condition, because there are so many ways on how to measure heart rate. I want to make sure first that they are physically fit, right? Because it varies from one person to another, especially if I will just base from heart rate. As we move along, I will tell you what are the measurement on how to measure heart rate, or the ways on how to measure heart rate. Then we will correlate that one to person as an athlete, as a patient as well. So that's why it is important to know whether, for example, a 30-year-old, if I will be using the maximum heart rate computation, I'll be expecting that this patient should have a maximum heart rate of around 190. But at the end of the day, he cannot tolerate 190 based on the age. He can only tolerate 150, and he is feeling dizzy right now. So you need to know the background of the patient, the physical, the endurance, the endurance and the physical history of the patient before you prescribe certain exercises. Coach Bernard, are you okay with that? Let me just continue so that you will the viewers can understand more.
Yes, Coach Jay, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, there are 2 ways on how to measure heart rate. First one is the maximum heart rate, right? How do you measure the maximum heart rate? See, actually this one is, maximum heart rate is, let's define what maximum heart rate is. Maximum heart rate is the maximum or the highest number of heart rate or beats per minute that your heart can do over a short period of time. But it's highly individualized, right? Just like what you were asking me, it's highly individualized, and it varies based on the athlete's fitness level, the age, and the gender. Okay. The most common measure on how to most common way on how to measure heart rate. I know this is more, as you can see here, if I'm pointing it out, This is more specific. But majority of the athletes or people, they're using this computation, 220 minus age of an athlete. So if you're 220, let me use my example. If you're 220 is the default. If you're 30 years old, your maximum heart rate that you can achieve is 190 beats per minute, which, having said, is highly individualized. This is a generic way, or it's an algorithm, which are not determining the fitness level, what is the age of the patient, and the gender, right? The second one is the heart rate to serve. Another way of measuring the heart rate to serve. Heart rate is the heart rate to serve. So if you will see here, heart rate to serve is equivalent to, right, maximum heart rate. If you did your heart rate, by the way, going back to measuring maximum heart rate, it can be done in two ways. It's either you do it in a laboratory where a medical professional is assisting you, and likely you need to do it 2 to 3 times to have an accurate result, right? Or in the field as well, wherein you do some short period of high intensity and you measure the maximum heart rate recorded in your Garmin watch. The next one is the heart rate to serve, right? Heart rate to serve is just the measuring the maximum heart rate versus minus your resting heart rate. What is resting heart rate? Resting heart rate is the minimum, or the minimum heart rate, or the slowest heart rate that you can achieve without doing any activity. When you are at rest, especially when waking up first thing in the morning, you measure your heart rate, that is your resting heart rate. Then you just minus it with your maximum heart rate and you will have a result. So then afterwards, there will be some data or charts to determine your heart rate zones. But just like what Coach Moy and saying, and Coach Bernard, Coach Mike were discussing, what's new? I'm not a big fan of maximum heart rate or heart rate to serve, but rather what's new right now is what we call the functional lactate, or the threshold heart rate, right? This is more specific, right? This is more specific, wherein in functional threshold heart rate, you do an actual test, whether on the bike and on the run. Joe Frail, I'm a big fan of Joe Frail. He's an internationally renowned known triathlete and coach. He popularized the 30-minute run test and the 30-minute bike test. Right? On the run test, all you need to do is just go outside, warm up, and do a 30-minute run. Then from there, you will get your average heart rate. So that will be your threshold heart rate. Similarly, on the bike part, we call it the 30 minutes, but you press the lap button on the 20 minutes, then you will have your threshold heart rate percentage. So using this chart, we call it the training intensity, excerpted from the Ironman Coaching University. As you can see here, threshold heart rate percentage on bike with corresponding zones. Let me go into details. Let me introduce one athlete to you first. One athlete, so that you will know how did we base, what are the parameters that we use. Let us know him as, we will have a nickname. His name is the Destroyer. I'll give him a nickname, the Destroyer. So he came to me, asked for my help. Okay, I will not tell you what is his favorite color, but I will rather tell you what are the information related to heart rate. His maximum heart rate in proportion to his age is low. That's why I'm not a big fan of measuring heart rate. His resting heart rate is inaccurate, and recovery heart rate is inaccurate as well. Why? Because if I may say, he was taking a blood pressure medication. So initially from the beginning, all the resting heart rate, all of my heart rate, because there are some factors that affect his heart rate. And also the cardiac drift, which was inaccurate. Unfortunately, these are some of the variables or factors under heart rate, but it will not be discussed here. Perhaps if I will be given the opportunity again, next time I will discuss the variables of heart rate. But I'm just giving you his history. Then afterwards, first ever 70.3 race, he was able to finish a sub 6, right? So let me, or you join me towards in his journey and how did he do it. Okay, so what he did a 30-minute lactate threshold heart rate with an average heart rate of 157. He did a field test. He did 3 times actually. This was his first. Okay, likewise, he did a 10-kilometer threshold heart rate to me, and his average heart rate, threshold heart rate was 165 beats per minute with an average pace of 5:15 minutes per kilometer pace. Okay, so technically speaking, we did the threshold heart rate test, both on the bike and on the run. Okay, having said, I already presented you this one. I used this table to predict the heart rate range and the training and racing intensity. Let's go into details. So based on the result that he had, right? These are the standard zones that I'm basing, right? The threshold bike, the zones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a corresponding percentage of threshold heart rate. So based on the run and bike as well and run as well. So let's just make an example, one quick one. If I'll be training him on zone 4, right, 95 to 105% of his threshold heart rate based on his result. So this gives you an idea. So all I need to do is, I already established his threshold heart rate, which is 157. All I need to do is based on, if I will be giving him training on zone 4, 0.95, right, to 105. So the result is 149 beats per minute, 157 beats per minute. So this is the expected intensity reflected on the heart rate that I will expect from him if I will be giving him some specific training using Garmin. Okay, anyway, I'd just like to introduce to you the team, the FITNOKEOLA team. How well do I know them? Okay, each and every athlete, I have put their specific heart rate zones based on the threshold heart rate test, both on the bike and on the run. Let me just, amongst the many athletes, I want to put attention mainly on those 2 things. I call him the smooth operator. This guy has a threshold heart rate of 171. As you can see, there's a computation from zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and zone 5. He's an ultramarathoner, right? Ultramarathoner, he did what? 10 hours, 11 hours on run. But based on his average heart rate, it was on the zone 4. Can you imagine that one? How good his endurance, fitness, or level is? Based on the mathematics, he's supposed to be on zone 4. Nobody can do zone 4 for 10 hours. But for that athlete, well, he did it. The singer, I call it the singer. His threshold heart rate is 166. If I will use maximum heart rate as my basis, it's way too low, right? It does not reflect the actual heart rate if I'm using the maximum heart rate computation. But at the end of the day, I have given them all the specific training zones, all the heart rate zones that I'll be expecting them on training days. So this singer, he has a lot of room for improvement and a lot of things to be done first to him. I'm sure one of these days, he'll become a good athlete. Okay, just an example, regarding the threshold heart rate. This is just one of my training specifics that I'm giving to my athletes, especially the destroyer, the first one. So if I'm giving him a threshold interval or zone 4 bike session, which is 5 times of 8 minutes by 5 times of 8 minutes with 2 minutes to cover on threshold 4. So technically speaking, I will expect him to be on the heart rate range of 157 and above, 141 to 157, and his normal heart. And okay, this is the data. Look, let's focus mainly on the main set. The main set is 8 minutes. This is the one that I prescribed. The main set was 8 minutes at 153 to 161 beats per minute. That was my expectation from him during this specific training exercise. And based on the record or the data, look at this one. The average heart rate of this specific 8 minutes was 158. Did he achieve it? Well, I guess I say yes. So now it's a measurement guide or tool for me as a parameter, whether was he following or is he following the specific intensity based on individualized or specific heart rate zones as a result of his test, right? Okay, there are 5 different zones I mentioned about this. Coach Bernard, do you have any questions before I proceed?
That's okay, Coach Jay. You can proceed.
Let me just get. Okay, so there are 5 zones, as you can see here. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 5. Right? This guides me. So let us discuss one by one. Zone 1 is for easy warm-up, used for recovery, and used for technique. So if I will prescribe you Zone 2, designed for light aerobic, this increases your endurance, is for long sessions. Sometimes if I have a new athlete, Coach B, if this is in relation to your question, if I will apply it in training, triathlon training, all I need to do with the athlete is I will give him a specific heart rate. Do not worry about other conditions. Do not worry about the pace. Do not worry about everything. Just look at your heart rate. I don't want you to increase your heart rate more than, for example, more than 130. I should not see any heart rate more than 130. So if you need to slow down, you need to slow down. My purpose is endurance and work on Zone 2. How do I predict that? Using heart rate. Zone 3, this is this 84 to 94% of the threshold heart rate result, is designed for a moderate aerobic. It's used for progressive training, time trials, repetition, okay? Energy metabolism is from aerobic to anaerobic energy. I use this zone as, I call it as my half Ironman 70.3 zone. The Zone 2, I use that one between Zone 2 to Zone 3. I use that one as my full Ironman distance zone. Okay, for some athlete, just like I told you, the smooth operator, I can afford, or somehow, based in his performance, he can go within Zone 3, Zone 4 of his half Ironman distance. Anyway, Zone 4, from 95 to 105% is a threshold zone. Let's define what threshold is. Threshold is the maximum effort that you can sustain between 40 to 60 minutes or longer, at least. Not from, for example, for some elite athlete or seasoned triathlete, their Zone 4, they can extend it up to half marathon race. So it depends upon your endurance. But in the general population, when you say threshold, this is the time range will be from 40 to 60 minutes. Some reference says 40 to 60 minutes at least. And the Zone 5 we only use for high repetitions, very taxing. This is used for speed intervals. Okay, okay, let's move on. Let's apply those assigned heart rate zones. If you will look at here, this is the assigned heart rate intensity on race day. One of my athletes, let's discuss about the destroyer. I assigned him at a specific heart rate. I told him, look at the chart first. There are 3 factors or variables that you will look at here. The gray one stands or represents the elevation. Is it changing? Yes, right? How about the speed? The green line represents the speed. Is it changing? Yes. How about the heart rate? Most likely in a straight parallel line. So meaning to say, when I told my athlete, you don't have to worry about the speed. All I need to do on your watch is set it on heart rate and on time. Because if I will tell him to base his effort or intensity through speed, it will change, it will vary. Therefore, it does not matter whether it's tailwind or headwind or elevation, right? The important thing there is we maintain the effort, and it will be reflected and can be reflected to the average heart rate or the heart rate that I assigned to him. This is how we train, or this is how we race. Same as well on the run. I selected his 10-kilometer run only because, like most likely in half Ironman, you will see some fluctuation because the athlete will be stopping at the aid station. But just to represent that there is an assigned or specific heart rate. This is Ironman Olympic distance. So steady effort, right? Steady effort, steady pace, steady heart rate for him. So did he follow it? Yes. So do you have any questions in between, Coach B, before I will sum up?
So far, so good, Coach Jay. You can proceed.
Okay. So again, in review, if you are unable to determine your heart rate zones on your training zones, it will be used as your guide, not only in your training, but as well on race day. Remember this? I did not even tell him to set up the speed on his Garmin watch. All I instructed to him is heart rate and the time for nutrition and hydration. Don't focus on the speed because it will change, right? Okay, let me just tell you something. This is the process of triathlon training and racing that the FITNOKEOLA team is using, or that I personally use as my basis on how to train an athlete or prepare an athlete for his A race. So there are 4 phases here, as you can see. Represents in 4 different colors: red, orange, a yellow, green, and blue phase. So the red represents the baseline or data gathering phase. What does it mean? When he first approached me, all I need to do is I told him, you just need to remember 3 things: easy, moderate, hard. Easy, moderate, hard, using RPE, right? Then from there, I started collecting information based on the heart rate result. So after data collection, there you go, the testing phase. Right, in the testing phase, I will instruct, or I will let my athletes undergo some testing, threshold heart rate test, in particular on the bike and on the run, right? So threshold heart rate test is equivalent to the pace, the speed, and the power, depends upon the availability or the resources that he had in measuring intensity. Then afterwards, after knowing the result, I will have a specific heart rate range on the specific training phase. But if you look at it, there is an up and down arrow on the testing and specific training pace. Depends on the specific calendar days in prep before the race day. I can do testing phase twice or 3 times, depends upon the preparation phase prior to the actual race day. So after knowing all the specific heart range, the specific pace and power, that's the time I will call it the implementation phase, wherein I'll be the one assigning a specific race intensity using heart rate and using some other parameters like pace or speed. So do you have any question before I'll conclude my presentation, Coach B? Any question from the participants or audience?
Coach Jay,
Mm-hmm.
I have this is actually a personal question. For the process of the training that you are doing,
Yes.
when you compute the threshold heart rate,
Yes.
you will have the basis also for the pace, speed, and power.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
It's reflective. Yeah.
It will be reflect.
So,
Yeah. It will be. It's reflective
during
in
this time that you've reflected all of these things, where do you usually put your recovery? Like if a person will have say for example he achieved on a certain day 80% of his threshold heart rate,
Yes.
how many what is the duration you recommend as a recovery for your athlete? Because this is very
So,
important, especially for the beginners. When do they, if they will be using heart rate, when they will
mhm.
be come back to train again, to push back again, so that they can improve.
to using technology, like what Coach Mike and Coach Moyes were saying, we can use the training pics to measure the training score test or the test score. Other than that, you have a patterned training cycle, right? It's a progress. There are some training principles that we need to consider. Coach Bernard, I'm sure you're aware of that. So we have such thing as progressive overload. I'm using a pattern of depends upon the fitness level or the background of the athlete. I'm using a pattern of 2 weeks on, 1 week off. So in an advanced athlete, I'm using 3 weeks on progressive, then 1 week off, right? So because that's the way how I determine whether the patient needs some heart recovery. Other than that, you will also use, just like what I said, if I'll be given I'll be given the opportunity to discuss it again or to say something again or talk again, I will be discussing about variables of heart rate, like the resting heart rate. See, resting heart rate or recovery heart rate, sorry, in particular, recovery heart rate reflects the fitness level and the current condition or stress level of the patient, of the athlete, not the patient. Using the recovery heart rate. What is recovery heart rate? I actually remove it from this presentation, but it will be discussed next time. Hope that I answer your question, Coach Bernard.
Yeah, sounds good, Coach Ye. Thank you so much.
Do you have any question? Anyway, if you don't have any question, once
Coach,
again, I would
Coach
like to
Jay,
thank.
ako, I want to add something with your
Go ahead.
heart rate. So I think it's also best, since we're creating a culture, especially with heart rate training. It's also
Mhm.
best that the athlete should understand that they will go slow when they use heart rate, especially when it's hot or they're
Yes.
tired. So they should avoid, or no, they should only look into one metric. They cannot use multiple metrics. If they want to use heart rate, use heart rate.
Use heart rate.
Don't use power or don't use space. Just use heart rate. With time and consistent training, you will get faster. and safer progression. But that's the thing, you cannot mix both. You have to pick one only.
So just like what I discussed in my earlier slide, Coach Mike, thank you for that addition. It's very informative. There are some factors to consider. There are some variables to consider, right? I can continue talking for an hour, but I don't know whether our moderator will allow me, because that will be, there are so many things to be discussed under heart rate, and there
Coach
is a
Jay.
big topic. You thought it's easy, you thought it's a simple topic, but it's not. Going back to what Coach Mike said, especially here in the Middle East, we are going through two different weather conditions, either so hot and so cold. So you don't expect to see the same pace or result if you will base on pace, just like what Coach Mike said. If I used to run 42 minutes over 10K, definitely I cannot do that one during hot and summer days. Right? Remember I told you one athlete, I told him, you don't have to worry anything. All you need to worry is your heart rate. I don't care about your speed. All you need to worry is your heart rate. So it depends upon which month of the year. What are the other factors to
Coach Jay.
environmental factors? Yes, Coach
We
B.
have a very interesting question coming from Maricar. So, does keeping the room cold to lower the HR considered cheating during workout?
No. I would say no. Why? Because you have a specific goal. Your body will adapt to it. You want to achieve this, unless otherwise you are training, because preparation for training and preparation for racing are two different things. If you are establishing your endurance and fitness level, that's not cheating. But if you are preparing for your race-specific condition, if I'm racing here, who asked that question, Coach B? Thank you for that wonderful question. See, the struggle that I have here, if I'm racing in Davao, in the Philippines, which is, I was running 36 degrees centigrade, 37 degrees on the run leg, right? But I was training here in Qatar, which is around 18 degrees. I cannot mimic the actual environment because it's way too different. But on the training day, when I am preparing for my endurance and fitness level, the main goal is for me to achieve to achieve the training intensity and the training volume required or prescribed for me in a specific day. So the answer to that, Maricar, is yes and no, right? But depends upon which part. What are you doing? Are you building up your endurance, or you are already in the specific or race specific preparation? I hope I answered your question.
Let me check the chat box if we able to answer all the questions of our audience. It's a very interesting session that we have right for today. We've definitely had an overtime for the duration of our webinar, but that's just say that the interest of our audience is really high on it, and they are interacting well, and I'm sure that they've learned from the three of you. Thank you so much. We had a great discussion. Thank you, Coach Mike, Coach Moy, Coach Jay.
Thank you for the opportunity as well.
For sure, when everything is said and done with the pandemic, I'm sure that all of this info will make us better triathletes.
Yes.
So for all the listeners, we hope to see you again next week. So the group had prepared again another interesting topics and discussions. So keep it locked in next week. Coach President Walks, any parting shots? All for you.
Yes, I would like only to thank all those who attended and listened to our episode 3. So see you again, guys, next week for the episode 4. So hopefully you enjoy and learn from this topic that we have discussed today. And thank you to all our speaker, coach, all the coaches. So that was a very interesting topic. So thank you and stay safe.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
day,
everyone. Thanks, guys. Coaches, salamat,
See you.
salamat, salamat.
Thank you.
Good evening to everyone.
Thank you. Thank Coach Moy. Thank Coach Mike. Good morning and good
Thank
evening, Coach.
Oo nga. Thanks, Coach Burns, Coach Mike, Coach
Vern,
Walks,
Jay, Coach Moy.
Jay. Salamat, salamat.
Talk to you soon, guys.
Sure, sure, sure.
Vern, meron pang ano bro, may nabasa ko dito.